Committee 2024. So welcome. Glad to the transportation. Our first meeting of the year. I'd like to welcome Jeff Coleman, the co-chair, and Zach Bowman. I'm terrible company names. Here's I get my own too. I'm Betty Kay the chair. So I'll go for that name too. Oh, and Hunter.
Cool.
So we have a relatively short agenda today. I'll wait for the slides.
We do have the one gentleman from 35.
That's fine. Let's go on to the agenda.
Okay. Slides.
I realize there is someone who'd like to bring up a new issue that's not on the agenda, but as usual, we'll do the agenda first. And begin with Robert's rules while they're looking for the slides. Any members will speak before non-committee members, found PD1, and then finally the people from community. And we always get to everybody anyway, so that don't be concerned, you'll hold it. We only have 2 items tonight. Hopefully you'll get to see them soon. One is finishing up what we started last month. And that is if there are any priority streets that you want for the daylighting. We'll do a little bit of a review on that for those who weren't present last time, so you can fully participate. And then Jess will take over with the congestion pricing. Again, this is the 1 month for community to do it. Anybody has respond or make any comments about what's going to be happening with the TMRB requests or suggestions for what the rules are.
That's it. Names.
Okay, we go on to the first slide, and you can see the agenda is. For those who are expecting the kids from PS 150, that got called off because of COVID. So they will be rescheduled, which is why it says postponed. But that's why you're also not going to see them today. So yes, poor Rose that came down with COVID, and she was the parent organizer, so
Oh.
probably not going to see her much beginning of the month in person. I mean, while she's keeping to herself. Yeah, so we'll actually jump to the next slide, the agenda. Yeah, we'll be going directly to the second item, which is the daylighting, as I said. And as a quick review, I'm not going to dwell on these slides. Here last month, you heard it already. It was announced, that's why it's been changed a bit. I see this slide. But actually, it's not an issue of if you want them or don't want them as much right now. There was an announcement by the mayor and the commissioner of the DOT, Rodriguez, that they are planning on daylighting 1,000 intersections a year, in addition to 1,000 intersections that will be redesigned for safety purposes. And may or may not include daylighting, I expect they probably will. So that brought us to the next slide. What do we want to do about it? And so what is daylighting, for those that don't recall? Inside the reddish green area, the areas that cannot be seen by the driver. Likewise, the people who are standing in those areas don't have a good sight line to the vehicle either in the driving. So that's kind of the blinded area to everybody that the road using.
Oh, well, there's supposed to be a stop line right in front of the, that's why the car is so far back behind the parked cars, is because there would be a stop line further back behind them.
It sort of depends. The DOT, we asked about that, and they don't necessarily leave a lot of space between the crosswalk and the stop. State rules are a little bit different anyway. For daylighting, you can see it's a street design intervention to get the visual obstructions out of the way between all road users. So whether you're a cyclist, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're the driver, whoever you are, it's to clear it up so you can all see each other. And state versus city law, for those, since you took a driver's test, the state law in fact prohibits parking within 20 feet. New York City that waived the rule and said, sure, you can park within those 20 feet. So it would be reverting more or less to state law. Next. Yes, and there are lots of ways of doing it. The interim or pilot is the one way of looking at it, and that's a textured paint, lane marking, flex posts. It can be virtually anything, but you'll notice it's pretty temporary things that can be done quickly and relatively inexpensively. And what you can see, as we've learned, it started with the Broadway bike lane and others. In our district, because there's so much illegal parking with placards and other things, we're gonna need a lot more than just paint and sign. Or there could just be another parking area that has all the data. Next. So there are things that have been done. The DOT's done a lot of different things around the city. This one shows planters as well as, they're not quite flexible, but they're not real sturdy bollards. They had some with regular bollards as well. So these are some of the things that could be done to provide protection so vehicles cannot get access into that space. The next step down is the long-term or permanent. We recall it's called often a neck down. You can see the sidewalk is actually built out on the curb cut. But again, this would require capital funds and hence some time. Otherwise, it's a nice thing. And if you look at the National Association of City Transportation Officials, this is kind of how they depict it. So this is more at a national level that we're looking at. But, you know, there can be greenery and there can be lots of things in them. But there can be a lot more space. I like this one, crossing West Street, as I just said, coming over there, for the pedestrians to stand. Here they made the curb cut actually wider than is required, and that would be very nice. It creates more space in our many crowded corners. The pedestrians really have nowhere to stand near the corner. So that's one of the nice things about it.
People online are having a little hard time hearing you. I think if you, maybe,
Louder.
yeah.
So we ended up last month with people who had priority locations, give them some time to think about it and what you think would be important for daylighting when they come into our district, what we suggest. And so we are going to be an area that should be looked at. Our district, as you'll notice, is in the senior pedestrian zones. So that should give us some priority for that reason. You go to the next, I think it explains a little bit of what some of the issues are. And the senior pedestrians have struck at 20 miles per hour. They're 3 times more likely to die than a non-senior adult. So they are truly more vulnerable and less likely to be able to get out of the way as well. Hence the interest in the senior zones. And we have them, in fact, they put it in the report from our district as well. So it's aligned with CB2. Also for Vision Zero priority corridors, we have 3. Canal Street between West Street and the Bowery. I know part of that's in CB2. The Avenue of the Americas or 6th Street. That disappeared. Between 6th Street, that's north of Franklin Street is counted in Division 0. And also the DOT considers West Street between Battery Place and Canal Street, the full length of our district along the western border on West Street. We look at a place that is website, and there are multiple, that look at priority areas where there have been collisions or other problems. As you can see, it's pretty dispersed around our district. So getting more points, I'll be interested in hearing what the discussion is. And from here, I'm going to go on and see what people have thought or what they think of. You're going to set priorities and tell the DOT in a resolution, what would you suggest? Nothing. Yeah.
I think this creates a hazardous condition because how will delivery trucks, buses, fire trucks, garbage trucks make their deliveries, making turns at these intersections? Even now, when buses and even box trucks make their turns, they end up driving on the curb. This will be dangerous for pedestrians that stand at this now extended curb. I'm sure, as we discussed before, that the DOT did modeling, but it needs to factor real life situations. Also, if Uber or Lyft, they need to drop off people, now they will block a traffic lane. So I think it's it's desirable on the surface, but it's not practical. Yeah.
Why do you say they were blocking a traffic lane compared to a car being parked?
Before, with the street wider, if, in case somebody
excuse me,
wanted to drop somebody off at the curb, they could.
Are you talking about the neck down?
Yeah.
Okay, the neck down, we should be so lucky we get them. Like I said, they're gonna be capital expenses, but I'm gonna let Kate take that on if she'd like to answer.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
For installing, for doing daylighting, we do look at the traffic and the impact, and we try to avoid installing daylighting where we know it will impact the turn radius. And like you just said, if the street is already pretty narrow, it would be unlikely that we would install something that would make it difficult or unsafe for cars to turn there.
The streets are already narrow enough. Especially in CP1, we have very narrow streets. I don't see where maybe on West Street, but other than that, we have very narrow streets. And then in case there's construction happening in the street, it'll just be more choke points in the road. I mean, think about ambulances that have to get to their destination immediately, fire trucks. It's easy to just narrow it and narrow and reduce the lanes but does the DOT factor traffic flow? There's so much congestion now, and some of it is done not by intentional design, but as a result of all these changes to the streetscape, it's created congestion.
I mean, I can just say we do account for traffic flow when we make changes, whether that's the signal timing, the amount of cars on the road, but again, like I understand the concerns.
You're talking about, the neck down versus daylighting, right? Versus general daylighting, right? Like, if you can't, because if you just did daylighting, you would actually have more space to make a turn, because there
Yes,
wouldn't be a
that's
car there.
Yeah,
But the neck down obviously would.
Yeah.
Fill in where the car would be, so.
yes.
For example, Park Place. Park Place in West Street, I mean, not West Street, Park Place in West Broadway, Park Place in Church Street, very narrow street. But with general, still not fully understand, with general daylighting would be like taking away a parking space, so that, I mean, because now it's the cars come up to like the crosswalk, even though they're not really supposed to, I think. But it's really, you have to look around a car to get, and it's one of those frustration streets because it's where people are frustrated and driving there, it's congested. But, so oftentimes you have people trying to buy it and that sort of thing. So, am I right about?
Yeah, so we would remove a parking spot on a corner, and treat it with a variety of treatments. One of them could be the neck down, where we build out another curb, more of the curb. We are able to put out delineators. We're also able to put granite blocks and planters. So there's a variety of treatments depending on the location.
Do they all get some kind of treatment? And I ask that because if you just take the parking spot away, people just put a sign up, people park there anyway, particularly placards. Think of an example on Platt Street in the financial district as you turn off of William Street. You're not supposed to park. There are signs that say no standing from the corner for about, I don't know, 15 feet or so.
Mhm.
People do it anyway. And any truck that tries to make that turn invariably hits the car that's there,
Mhm.
backs up, hits one of the DOT cars that's parked on William Street, goes back down, hits 3 more cars. I don't know, but yeah, how do you, without some sort of treatment, just taking the parking space away alone isn't going to be enough, it seems to me.
Right.
Yeah, and we do have no standing and no parking signs in certain locations already to act as daylighting. We are trying to move away from that for that exact reason. But I can't say definitively with this mayoral initiative that every individual intersection will receive a certain treatment over the other.
And like you said, I mean, we're not gonna solve the placard thing, so it's like, which came first, the placard thing, assuming it doesn't go away, whatever sign you put up is not gonna make a difference. Like just for that situation that he brought up.
Well, excuse me, Rich and Pat, can I ask you, are you leaning towards, in our district, we would suggest there be some kind of granite block or bollard or planter?
Wholeheartedly yes, from my perspective.
That's kind of what I've been hearing over and over. Mitch, you agree?
Well, that, I'm in between that and what Eric said, so I see pros and cons on both sides.
Well,
But
but say there is.
that would definitely help that situation.
I really think, the distinction between the flexi bollards versus like a block or something that's actually, stationary is much more effective.
Yeah.
Those little, I see the fatalities of little bollards all over Brooklyn, they're useless. They're kind of just like there to, kind of remind you that you're breaking the law.
You're 100% correct, but then, just somebody like not mean intentioned, but, the sturdy structure now is gonna cause $1,000 worth of damage. I'm not talking about one of those trucks that abuses it, but just somebody that's just happens to like a dent. And then, so maybe some type of rubbery material that is stronger than the little flip things, but not like the concrete or something like that. There are materials like that, I mean, I'm kind of like being semi-joking, but like the bumper cars, in the amusement park, like some materials that do exist that wouldn't cause the type of damage to a car, but, would be a little more protection than the flip things.
Well, knowing that it would cost $1,000.
Or maybe standing with their hand up. saying,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's,
Sorry.
well, so those people would just hit the cars that would have been there. So it doesn't, like, I'm okay with them getting damaged because otherwise they're just banging their car up against cars that would have been there if they can't drive
I
around
just feel
a
bad for
planter.
everybody that has to go through that
It's,
stuff.
I mean, I don't know. I think that if you're driving in the city and you slam into something as you're turning, then you're not very good
Unless
at
it's
driving.
illegal.
So anyway, and so I live, in Brooklyn over by like Hoyt and Livingston and all of that. And there's been a lot of interesting traffic changes, and I believe some of it's paint on the side, on the street that has created a bit of daylighting, and it's been delightful. Like it's been really nice. I think the bus thing that's happening there is confusing, but that's not what we're doing here. Anyway, I love it. I think it's great. And I think that there's a lot of spots off of, Nassau and William where cars are running stop signs, where it would be really helpful for pedestrians to see those cars running the stop signs so that they don't walk into the street.
Is that the daylighting, Mimi, see, I'm looking at you, with the neck down or just the daylighting without the neck down?
We're not even doing neck down right now. We're just doing
Okay.
daylighting,
Okay.
right?
Right, because if we're talking about short term, if they're gonna do 1,000 in a year, believe me, they're gonna be relatively quick. And it's going to be, capital funds, as we know, are 5 to 10 years of plan
Okay.
and more money, so. Talk about daylighting in general, assuming that's what we get, those 1,000, but 1,000 are gonna be obviously a lot more work put into whatever safety. And those safety changes could be like changing the light signal.
Yeah.
There could be lots of things, but not necessarily neck down.
You know what, I wish they had like on some of the stop signs, especially on some streets where the lighting's not good. I was in some city like last month where they had almost like a flashing little lights on the outskirts of the octagon of the stop sign, so you see it from like a distance. Almost like those little, like reflectors on like a country road where there's no lights, so you can see the lanes. I mean, something like that would really help, daylighting or no daylighting, the little points reflecting, flashing on the stop sign, so it's, even if somebody's a little woozy late at night, it's something that I found really helped when I was in this other city, in a rural place, last month.
Take that back.
Patrick, too, since you're in Side-Eye, I know there were already a couple of streets mentioned in Side-Eye for the idea of daylighting them and giving them some priority. In fact, I know Ann Street, I've had complaints from people who live there too. And a lot of the issue, it can only help them to be able to see what's coming on the street. What do you think of putting a priority for the whole pedestrian priority zone that the DOT is defined.
I mean, I think that makes great sense because this dovetails along with what, you know, what the ideas have been floated over the years for that project. I don't know where DOT stands in
Yeah.
that process and then in connection with this, but it seems, you know, under those prior plans, there have been a lot of calls for some kind, it doesn't have to be all baked and fully figured out right now. Some interventions in the short term, even if they're temporary, as ways to sort of prove the concept, are a good way to go. And I think it's just one of the many tools in the toolbox they can use.
Yeah, to let people see what's going on. I know for me, it's an issue, and I know people have brought it up, that if you can't see, and I certainly can't see at corners, I do go out into the lane of traffic so that I can see something, which doesn't help the cars any more than it helps me.
I mean, John Street's a great example of that. When you have corners at Nassau and William, people are parked all the way up to the corners. You really do have to get out and sort of check around the trucks that are there. By trucks, I'm just talking pickup trucks.
So Betty, since you just said it helps the cars more, to help you, I'd be interested to know, what would help you, you know, more as far as somebody in your situation to be able to navigate a little more safely?
Well, it's daylight, it's like everybody else, it's daylight.
Okay.
I'm more like children and pets.
Okay,
I'm a little shorter than everybody else, so it's harder to
okay,
see. But it's the same issue everybody else has.
okay.
Because there are lots of trucks and SUVs that even full-size adult males are kind of masked by them.
Right.
So it's not different, it's just.
And just to, along with that point, as somebody who owns a car and does drive in the financial district occasionally, and I too would appreciate that extra space when you get to certain of those
Yeah.
corners. And you really you can't see what's coming at, sort of inch the roads very, very.
Well, I think
Very
the issue coming up too with people with pedestrian bike conflicts are the same thing. They can't see each other either. If the cars are high enough and they're coming down the street. So it really is all road users.
You know, there were some streets that I wish they had, like, I mean, I used to bring, when I was in some other, like, foreign countries and some rural areas and, you know, really no signs, but when you came to the corner, there was like a mirror, like a cross, and so you could kind of see, and I mean, sometimes these non-technical things in certain spaces make a big difference. You know, so in some of those really narrow streets where you might have to go an inch out to see if another car's coming, like one of those like mirrors, like so that you can see you know,
Those are great for the winding, curvy
Yeah,
English roads.
I mean, you know,
They are.
sometimes there's an old trick that might help in certain situations. I'm not saying, you know, one size fits all, but just in certain situations.
Well, let's get some people who are online. Justine?
Thanks so much, guys. Looking at this picture that is on the screen right now, I'm really wondering, and I signed in a little bit late, but I like the planters there because my biggest concern, my biggest concern with it is that bikes are going to take over and get in the way of that all. And with the planters there, they're not going to ride in it, so that's a good thing, right?
Well, that's, Justine, we were talking about that before. In our district, we need something that's more permanent, you know, whether it's a bollard or planters, which are nice.
Mm-hmm. Now, in here, and I guess my question is that I think that they're good, but they may be too high and block views for people, like you said, children, dogs, or people in wheelchairs. But
I'm there for that.
beyond that, I think that they're a really good idea. And like you said, they're not necessarily permanent, but they're certainly quick. So thank you.
It's a good point.
Kate, what work are the fake bollards doing here? Are those necessary when you have the planter? You need them?
They may have preceded.
We don't need them in every instance. I'm aware they may have been there first. And then the painting was done later with the planter.
What if they're using the reflection for nighttime? So that people know that there's a planter there.
Might be stuck with them. Mary Ann?
Sorry.
Thank you. I have a few questions and clarifications. Katie, you used the word delineator earlier. Is that what we're seeing here, these white and gray things? Yes.
delineation.
I just want to add, to follow up on previous comments about them, they are a tripping hazard when they get flattened down. So, they get put up, they get flattened, and then they catch at your toe as you're walking. And I don't know, that's happened to me, let me just say that. And they're not maintained. I wouldn't even know what to do if I see a bad one. So maybe that's some information we could share.
You can call 311 when one's knocked down, and we will go out to repair it.
Thank you. Do you know how quickly that tends to happen?
Usually, I would say it's pretty quick, usually within the week.
I'd love to stick on the line.
Okay. Now, when we started this presentation, there were 3 areas pointed out that where this work is potentially to be done. Canal Street, Avenue of the Americas, and West Street.
Those are Vision Zero priorities, yes.
Okay, I mean, I didn't quite hear that, but that's all we're talking about as of now?
No, that was a suggestion, one for why, hopefully our district will be looked at, because the DOT has identified 2 different sorts of issues in our district. One, compared to other districts. One is, we do have Vision Zero priority corridors, and others might too. So those
Okay.
3 we should certainly look at.
Sit-
Otherwise, we're a senior priority area in the city, and so that's an issue, and how we pull that into play has yet to be discussed by anyone.
I'm sorry, I only heard part of that. Did you said something about a senior area? I didn't hear what that was about.
So we're in a high senior zone, so we're hoping that we get priorities for that as well.
For what flow?
For the daylighting options, we're hoping that will be prioritized because of the zone that we're in, for being in a senior heavy zone.
Okay, so of these areas, the best that I know is West Street. And I could see, definitely there's crowding on West Street corners where this is needed. But the bigger concern in day-to-day life is, as Patrick, I think, was describing earlier, the narrower streets where there's so much illegal parking right up to corners. And I both walk and bicycle. And it is such a struggle to get close enough to see without getting into a dangerous position. So I just want to say that there are much narrower streets that need attention to opening up the corners and daylighting those corners.
I think the initial ask was, what corners do we think we should add to this, right? So.
Right.
Because as you saw from the picture, virtually all of them qualify at some level. So I was looking at some of the things, and what if Vision Zero priority corridors, I'm going to assume those are places to look at. Also, the senior pedestrian doesn't cite any particular streets, just should give us a look at. I looked at other things. One thing that blocks, blocks with various high usage. So for instance, blocks with schools, senior centers, assisted living facilities, facilities for people with disabilities, parks and libraries.
Is this generally along the lines of things you'd be looking at anyway?
We are still developing the criteria for this new initiative. But these are great suggestions that I think we'd be happy to receive in a resolution.
But yeah, and I would think of anything else. It would be the kind of community center that would draw a lot of people, pedestrians and other users that you really want them looked at the most for safety because they're just heavily used.
Or the schools, you know, the young little children, you know, like elementary.
Yeah.
You're gonna be doing this in gradation, I mean, it's like, that's what, sometimes I feel the city or, you know, whatever, if they pass something, it'll just, you know, it's either all or nothing. And I always like to see things in gradation to see, you know, how things work, so this is gonna be like, it's gonna be like really coming out heavy, or it's gonna be like, you know, maybe one here, one there, see how things go, and then. you know, so to allay fears of people that, you know, see.
Well, I'll say it's a citywide initiative, so not all 1,000 will be in
No,
CB1. So it will be in CB1 here and there, just like every other part of the city. And when we do install work or do work in a particular intersection, we do take back community feedback. If there's something seriously wrong that you're seeing, we will take it into
I just hope it's not a
consideration.
gradation.
Right.
Thank you.
I mean, we are setting, based off the mayor, the goal to install 1,000, daily, 1,000 corners.
That is a great, that's basically a great.
Should we say something about like touristy areas? Sorry.
Oh, I just have a specific suggestion. Are we doing specific suggestions?
You can do it at any level, but there are some problems with very specific, which is why I'm looking for how can we generalize it a bit.
Okay, by the movie theater.
Which one?
The Alamo. It's just, you know, yeah, Nassau, between Nassau and William, Pine and Liberty. It's just wild over there. I mean, Maiden is also wild. That whole area is just,
Well, we already have the FIDI
is that?
pedestrian zone. Which, if you want to know what that, how that was defined by the
I
DOT.
would, maybe she's right here, I would just, tell her the street you want.
I just did.
Well, she's actually bigger than that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're saying just follow the FIDI, that's great.
But it was between Broadway and Brooklyn Bridge.
East of Broadway to Water Street, west of Water Street, south of,
Brooklyn Bridge
Well,
down to the.
yeah,
Battery.
Brooklyn Broad Bridge kind of cuts out that area around Southbridge Towers. But includes the area south of the Brooklyn Bridge, like where Pace is located.
Right, because we would pick up Nassau Street. So it's a pretty sweeping area for, that covers a lot of these individuals that, yes, I've heard a lot about individual streets. And they're kind of too numerous to name. It's easier to deal with it as the DOT has already identified them as a pedestrian priority zone. So I think we're probably better off to handle it that way for that part of our district, since the DOT has identified it as a pedestrian priority zone. Another thing to run by you, so we'll have the Vision Zero priority corridors, which are the three, Canal Street, Sixth Avenue, and West Street. But also the blocks with the seniors, the schools and senior centers and those. The pedestrian priority areas, including those that were identified by the DOT, that Patrick just gave us the border. And what CB4 said, see what you think of this one. They asked that any time there was street repainting, that they just put, use paint only perhaps, but at least put in the daylighting on those streets. Make it automatic.
What neighborhood is CB for?
They are Midtown along the west side, so they're south of 60th Street.
I mean, I personally would be against just making it automatic, it's, you know, because one size doesn't fit all, there are, you know, some
But that
streets that
doesn't
need,
do it.
there are some streets that need painting, but might not need that because of the structure of the street, and there's some streets that might, yet I personally, I'm only one vote, would be against, making something automatic, because there is too many, not one size fits all.
How could it not be fitting all if it's paint?
I'm sorry, Betty, I didn't.
But how could it not be one size fits all if it's paint?
Well, but you said that would, maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you said that if it has to be repainted for different reasons, then they automatically put the daylighting in on that street.
Well, obviously with paint, that doesn't mean they're gonna do anything else.
So, did I misunderstand?
Like, I'm going back of what, Mitch was saying, like, let's say the street has the turn radius cannot accommodate the extension of painting it and reducing the width of the street. So it shouldn't just be all streets.
It's producing parking, one parking
Well, no.
space, reducing the street.
Because here, I mean, this one I'm seeing, I mean, you want to do it for intersections, right?
There used to be a car there and now there's a plant.
Now,
But to do it for all streets, it should depend on the
The makeup of the
intersection.
street.
Yeah, like if it's already a narrow street
and doesn't have parking, then it wouldn't be an issue.
It's just the parking that would go away. If it's already, so some narrow, correct me if I'm wrong, some narrow streets already have paint or signs that say you can't park here. And like fire trucks will come through and ticket them or whatever and say that they can't turn there, right? Like, Like that's already the case. Cars still park there. This would put a plant there so that they can't park there.
Actually, it would just be putting paint.
This,
Right.
or paint in a plant or whatever, but it's to prevent the parking that you're talking about. Like it fulfills the requirement that you're asking for.
It doesn't address streets like, say, Staple Street that has no parking anyway. I mean, it's super narrow alley-like, but there's no parking, so they can't.
The only thing with the automatic thing, there are just too many exceptions of
Give
the
me an example.
topography in the city. Like I said, I'm not against it for, in maybe many of the cases, but I just don't like when I hear the automatic thing, because there's just too many exceptions where the streets just somehow, it doesn't work in those 3 out of 10 spots.
What about
Why-
consent?
I'm just, you know.
Yeah. What if we said it's like an automatic consideration, or it's automatic unless deemed otherwise impractical or something like that?
That's very diplomatic of you. I personally I don't like the term automatic because of what it connotates, but, maybe somebody else has a.
I just wouldn't want it to take away from other spots that might really need it.
Right.
That's all.
Like I said, this one was a suggestion of not replacing daylighting necessarily, but saying, look, if you're going into a place and you're resurfacing the road, or you're just plain or painting the road and you're not redoing,
Midtown
why
is,
not just do it there?
is a little, like, I mean, just I mean, I don't live in the financial district most of the time, I walk down there, I mean, this, Midtown, 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 6th Avenue, 42nd, 43rd, I mean, the streets are pretty, like, similar in the streets and the avenues as far as like the streets and the curb structure and everything. That's not the case down here in many different areas. It's not equivalent to the topography of Midtown and down here.
But then why would they be parking? That's different.
My only concern with paint is that, you might end up with not fully developed or, treated out, daylighting itself. In other words, people will probably still park there, even though they aren't supposed to. And, I'd rather go all the way and, have some physical barrier that, prevents folks from parking. Does that make, I mean,
So your concern then is if they do these quick and easy, that's just formulaic. It's like, if you're going out with paint anyway, at least just paint that. That you
Right.
you have short service in the long run, because they might say, oh, that's done, and leave.
right, that's my fear.
That's fine.
I think that happens a lot. And, I just think that it's better to, then you have people breaking the rules and other people see that and they just, I don't know. It's just, I'd rather go all the way.
Yeah, because people are already parking in corners that they shouldn't park in anyway.
They are.
So
And that
Why
plant
not
will take up another spot.
a plant there
Exactly.
that
Another
attracts
spot in the middle of the street.
That plant. It's not that.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's so much. Plants.
Marianne? Now?
Okay, thank you. I think terms are not being used consistently here. When we're talking about daylighting, it means that cars- you hearing me okay?
Yeah.
You're not hearing me.
They're cutting out.
Now you are.
Keep
Okay.
talking, let's see what happens.
So daylighting means that no car would be parked in this orange fan zone, right? So that where the two cars are sticking into it, that would be simply a shorter, there'd be more of a crosswalk area. And so oh gosh, my head is bursting. Instead of saying that every corner is different, which of course it is, but every corner needs a certain amount of quote daylight, space where cars are not parked, that we can turn our heads, whether we're on a bicycle in the road or a pedestrian on the corner, and see what's happening around us. If we can agree that that's what daylighting means, then we can talk about how much daylighting is needed. and whether the same amount is needed on every street corner. I'm not going to argue one way or the other, but I think we keep talking about paint and planters when really what we're talking about is space to see danger and avoid danger. And if I'm defining the term correctly, I'm hoping that may help help us reach some conclusions.
Yeah, no, Marion, I think they understand that. The question is, how much do you have to defend that area?
Say that again. How do you defend the area?
How much you have to defend the
There was-
area so that the cars
I
don't
think,
just come in.
I mean, I'll just say my opinion is you have to defend it a lot because the abuse is rampant.
Right, but that's why they're talking about planters and,
No, I realize that, but I feel like, I'm sorry, maybe it was just what I was able to hear, but it seemed that we were fixating not on the safety issues of having visibility, but on how we would design the corner. So if we all agree that we need a certain amount of space to turn our heads and look for dangers, then we can get to the next level of how to provide that open space. And I think that we have terrible, dangerous intersections all over the city. I mean, it's awful out there. And I don't hate it because it's kept me very sharp and aware. But really, if you didn't grow up here and have your head on a periscope all the time, you know, that's how people get hurt. They're distracted and they're not looking. And they're prevented from looking, let me put it that way. So,
yeah,
They're on their cell phones.
and a lot, and I want you to realize too, to put it in perspective, you know, what's 1,000 of these and 1,000 of those a year? There are over 40,000 intersections in New York City.
no. Well, I won't, I just heard on the news tonight that Queens is doing a whole big thing about placard parking. I wish that could be taken better care of everywhere in the city. But I'll stop at this point and let you go run from there. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Yeah, before Mimi, Netta, do you have anything to say?
Well, I mean, I think what she was saying, it's super interesting that if the amount of cone that we have, the orange part, it's going to change if the street is narrower. So that if the distance from the edge of the curb to where the car is parked is set and the same for all streets, regardless of width of the street.
Not necessarily, you're assuming that the travel lane is narrower. If there's parked cars there, then the street has a certain amount of width. And that wouldn't affect the cone that much from the driver that's driving in the lane.
I think you're asking is, does the length of the daylighting change based on the width of the street, Kate?
Yes,
It does.
it varies based on the width of the road.
So the wider the street, the longer the daylighting, or the narrower the
It
daylighting?
wouldn't have to be with the visibility of this, that specific corner, I would think. Would depend whether it's wide or, I'm just guessing whether it's wide, I'm like an educated guesstimate, whether it's wide or narrow, depending on the visibility at the corner, would, to me, would be the determining factor.
So I believe it's wider, but I'm also not one of our designers, so that, again, it would vary based on the street, so I can't say definitively.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that, and that we have engineers who figure that out, for specific corners.
Betty, I like what you had, when you came up with, you know, the schools, the assisted living facilities and those things. I think that sounds fine as opposed to copying what CB4 said in Midtown. I think that's a fair, what you had was a fair starting point.
Yeah, no, that's a separate issue, but yeah, for naming them, I agree. I think we have to somewhat put them around the types of facilities on the block, rather than looking for, where is every school on every block, you know?
No,
where-
no, you wrote something general, which I think is okay.
Someone has to agenda up and then we can
Yeah, you have-
Slide with the.
no, but I gave
I gave him the.
I gave both of you the connection to
See, there's a lot of color.
my documents that we have. You can find that. Otherwise, I can read it because I printed it out. I think my memory wasn't that good.
Well, with another hand, Jada, you wanna say something?
Yes, I lost my, something just changed. Okay, in the way I can see the screen. Um, I just, wanted, I want to back up and, to report a broken delineator. If I go on 311 online, what category? Because, if I search the word delineator, nothing comes up.
I will have to double check. I'm not certain off the top of my head. But if you're not able to make it on 311 on the DOT website, you should also be able to do it. We have a separate complaint form as well. But I'll
You
have
mean
to,
go, if 311 doesn't work, go directly to the DOT website and submit something?
yes.
But then it gets left out of the 311 statistics. I mean, not that it matters to me.
I'm not certain if it is left out of the 311 statistics, but I know that also goes directly to us.
Okay. Because, yeah, they're broken all over the place and, both the more robust ones and the more wimpy ones. So on this topic, I just want to say, I think the Department of Transportation has a toolkit and they have different treatments they can do depending on the intersection and the size of the street and and they also generally do quite good studies of what streets need what. So I'm comfortable with leaving a lot of the choice of the tools that would be used at each intersection up to the DOT and sort of for me, just as many intersections as possible. I will say I have seen some planters installed. I forget if it was 7th or 8th Avenue in Harlem. And people moved them, even though they were huge and big. And they were put like, maybe 5 feet away from the sidewalk. And I mean, from the crosswalk. And they've all now been pushed onto the crosswalk, so whatever little bit of 5-foot daylighting that they were trying to create, it's gone. So whatever needs to be done needs to be, robust enough that it's, that motorists adapt to the change.
Yeah, and I'll just say with planters, we usually do find a maintenance partner to assist with moving them back and forth when they are moved. So a local bid or a school or a community-based organization.
They would water them too. Okay.
And that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, some places have, don't allow parking 10 feet or 25 feet from every crosswalk. So as much as NYC wants to move in that direction, I think is good.
And
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dada.
Yeah.
I think we've been talking about, but.
That,
So I love the planters. They look fabulous. I'm just concerned that because we live with such pigs in New York City, that they're going to use them as garbage cans. And so I don't know how to, I'm just making a comment because I really don't know how you avoid that, because I love seeing the planters there in the intersection. Maybe you can put garbage cans next to the planters, which would just be another means of helping with the daylighting.
Yeah, I think that's an issue we encounter. And again, we try to work with our maintenance partners to avoid that. And more trash cans, that would be a DSNY request, but it's something we can definitely consider.
Could be something that shape, but not like a planter where people, like a dome with a rubbery top or something.
We also use, we also use granite blocks that are smaller than planters, but they're also more easily hit by cars and.
Yeah, I'm
not
talking
have-
about granite, I mean,
Yeah.
other materials.
No, I'm just saying what we already use in our toolkit, but that is also something we consider.
and I think we asked this last time, I don't remember, what about the city bike stuff?
Yeah, so there are instances where we will install a city bike dock and it will inadvertently daylight a corner, but we're not intentionally installing city bike docks to daylight corners because if we're installing a city bike rack, we're more likely, or a city bike share station, I should say. We're more concerned about that, station being closer to a bike lane or, a subway station or, a high pedestrian area where we know that it will get usage and also is a safe place for bikers.
And pedestrian.
Yes.
So,
So I think the resolution, the suggested wording, kind of like see that we've talked about it, you could, actual wording, and you can see I got rid of one of them that had to do with looking at all corners when you're doing painting. So we're down to two. One is that, we support safety for all road users. It asks the DOT to install, temporary daylighting that includes boulder, bollard, or a heavy planter to block vehicle access. It should be installed in CB1, Community District 1, until long-term safety measures such as sidewalk neck downs can be installed to also calm traffic, shorten pedestrian crossings, and increase space. So the temporary isn't to rule out long-term options, but nevertheless, when you give a short term, put in some kind of barrier. So probably gonna need it. Second
Want
one,
to add hospital?
1 second, priority intersections are the ones that we already spoke about, so there's nothing new here.
Did you hear me?
No, you can speak now, sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Pat.
Did you want to add hospitals, parks, library, hospitals, schools?
Yes,
I thought Betty had that.
how did I?
You shouldn't have,
But she's
I don't
right.
think, I see hospitals. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other thoughts? Because if not, I'm gonna call a question.
good man.
Stop. Call a question. Second.
Next, want to take the vote? Yeah, after your camera's on, if you're voting, well, Betty, your camera's on. All those opposed? We have one. Anyone who's recusal? Anyone abstain? I assume the rest are yeses, so thank you. Motion passes. And I get to turn over the meeting to Jess, so I know anxiously going to move forward with congestion prevention.
Dying to go back to congestion. So,
You put a time limit on.
yeah, so
Yes.
I got back to this. If you remember last week, we talked about the recommendations from the Traffic Mobility Review Board. I have an overview here to remind you all. So there's the comment period closing next month. We have to decide if we want to put in a comment on behalf of the community board. We don't have to. And if we can come to a consensus, which is anyone's guess at this point. Here are the recommendations in a lovely chart that I created, for those who don't remember. So you can take a look there. We'll go back to this. After we go through a little bit more.
Wait. Where's the motorcycles?
I didn't put in motorcycles, but
Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
excellent. Oh, no problem here.
And for limited motorcycles, which are called mobile.
You ride motorcycles?
Yeah.
This is the information about the public comment period, where you can submit comments and where the hearings will be and when they will be. If you want to submit comments on your own, we can give out this information if you are interested. So, in thinking about this, what comment the community board can put in, we have to be cognizant of what the community board has said in the past. So Betty graciously put together all of the past resolutions that community one has done. Congestion pricing, there isn't much in terms of recommendations that really bear on the TMRV's recommendations, besides the call for like a resident exemption. Notably, there are a lot of things that the community board has asked for, such as no exemptions for government vehicles and a bunch of other things which I'm not remembering right now, which actually are in the TMRV's recommendations. The one that isn't, as I said, is the resident exemption. Coming out of last month's meeting, I know that one of the concerns that we all had was about the discount and exemption for low-income people, that it would be a tax credit and not just an upfront discount. So those are really the two main things that I've identified so far as concrete comments that this committee seems to want to make. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if there's anything else you want to put in there, now's the time to say so. Or we don't have to.
I do.
I have a question.
Yes, Justine.
Thanks. Sorry, I didn't want to just jump in, but, so no challenges to what you have there, but do we have clarification as to what they plan to do with folks that are in Battery Park City? I know they say that, sorry, my dog. I know they say that there's not going to be a trigger if you stay within the zone, but I'm not clear that within the zone applies with Battery Park City. It seems like it's vague, and that's
Zach spoke to someone at the MTA. Zach, you want to
Sure.
tell us what you learned?
Yeah, I spoke with the MTA. They said as a car crosses the threshold into, below 59, either by crossing from above 59 or through a bridge or tunnel, they sort of tag your vehicle.
Right.
If you're going down west, and it sort of follows your vehicle on the numerous tracking points on west to see if you exit. So if you cross checkpoint A, B, C, and then do not cross checkpoint D on west, then it assumes you have entered the area and you've come off the sort of free space of west, and then you will be charged. So
Okay,
you
that's not answering my question, sorry. My question is, in Battery Park City, which is west of,
Yeah, so it'll only sort of mark you if you enter the zone. If you're in Battery
but I
Park-
will, yes, we have to enter the zone because we're going across the highway.
Justine,
And-
there, and I should have put the slide in here that they shared with you, which shows where
Okay.
the entry points are, where they're gonna be the scanners. And they have entry point scanners, they have exit point scanners, and they have these verification point scanners that you're talking about on West Street. There are no entry point scanners along Battery Park City. So there's no entry point into the zone if you get off West Street.
Yeah, it only triggers you as entering the zone if you go from above 59 to below, or come through a bridge or tunnel into the zone from Brooklyn
Or New Jersey. Right,
So that's
and
the
then
only
if
way
you, that would make sense. You come across the Holland Tunnel, for example.
Right.
You get on the West Side Highway and then you enter Battery Park City. That would be a trigger, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's fair. That's what they're planning to do. So you're saying that I could drive from Battery Park City to the World Trade Center site, and that would not,
Correct.
and back again, and that would trigger nothing.
Drive to
Right.
Madison Square Garden, you could have a whole day.
Right, I could go back and forth 100 times and it's not a
That
trigger.
drives the lithium was crazy.
Don't cross 60.
And you can leave the zone and you will not be charged. It's coming back.
Just never come back.
Never come back. Yeah, there you go. So you can leave the
I
zone,
just-
but never. So you can go to the Holland Tunnel, but you don't get charged, but you would get charged when you come back.
Right.
Yes, and this came up because somebody who was representing the unions was very concerned about people who work a night shift
Yes.
that it hit on both ends,
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
work and coming back from work, so they tried to standardize it to help that group out.
No, that makes sense, because right, there are a lot of night shift people like doormen or stuff like that, or doctors and nurses who work the night shift, and they would need to have some sort of consideration. Thank you, appreciate it.
Mitch?
I just have a question, and maybe one of you two guys can answer just about, it's not a comment about this. So my understanding, the way the rules they're proposing, if you're coming down the FDR Drive, and then you can go into the Brooklyn Bridge, and you're not charged, correct?
Correct.
So there are many people, you find out where the traffic is, and people coming down from the West Side Highway, and then they have to turn in to get to the Brooklyn Bridge a few seconds on Canal or whatever. So you get charged to go onto the Brooklyn Bridge from that side?
Yes.
So, yeah.
They won't do it.
Sometimes, you hear about the traffic, I mean, I don't have a car, but I mean, you hear the traffic report, an accident, between 35th Street and 22nd Street, take the west side, the WINS News, and then, what do you do? I mean, so, I just didn't know if they were gonna be making some type of exception, because it gotta be both, the way Manhattan is, it's gotta be both. It gets, otherwise there's like Eric's one, good expression, a choke point. Okay, thank you.
Even though they've said all along, they're not going to try.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure about that. I was thinking about that.
Data?
Thanks. The one thing I would like to add is I think it's now too high for taxis and for hire vehicles, because taxis were already paying $250 since 2019 for congestion pricing, and for hire vehicles, we're already paying $275 since 2019 already for congestion pricing. And now taxis are going to pay another $1.25. So they're going to be paying $375. Other for hire vehicles are going to be paying another $250. So they're going to be paying $525 per ride. So I do think there shouldn't be I think there shouldn't be such a big disparity between yellow taxis and other types of for-hire vehicles. I don't think it should be $375 versus $525. And I just think that's really high per ride. I thought that the fee that was implemented on them in 2019 already took care of their contribution to congestion pricing. So I'm sort of surprised that another fee is on them now. So that's my 2 cents.
Thoughts?
I feel like it's just that this money is gonna go to the MTA. The other money was probably gonna go somewhere else.
No,
But that's
so
just
that went to the
theory.
MBA.
The other one went to the MTA too? No.
Yeah, no, and I understand, 'cause I printed out the taxi fee, which means all the TLC, and it's very hefty. On the other hand, goal of the program is to get vehicles off the road. So it's hard, I can see why the TMRB did that and said, our real goal is to get these vehicles off the road.
And aren't they trying to get to a certain number, like money wise?
Yes, the goal is to make the money. If they wanted to get a certain number of cars off the road, there were other alternatives that were presented in their own report that would have gotten the congestion down and the pollution down. Those options wouldn't make them any money. And that's why we have congestion.
Yeah, no, this is a national issue, and it's gotta be $1 billion a year plus the cost of running the program, is what the legislation says.
The national.
Well, that's an arbitrary number that, it could be 5 billion, it could be 20 billion. They came up with a number by the people that came up with this, that's, that's if you
That's
agree
what
with
the
the
state
premise.
Eric?
Yeah, it's not to reduce congestion. It really isn't. It's for the money, because if, let's say in the future, congestion pricing isn't, it's implemented and the toll revenue, the number of cars that come into the zone is decreased. They will increase the toll per vehicle because the bonds on which it was issued, they have to make the bond payments. So it's not to reduce congestion, because if they do eliminate it, then there's no money for the tolls. And then where's that money gonna come from? So we're locked in. If congestion pricing is fully implemented and those bonds are issued. We're in it for, I don't know how long the bond term is, but I'm thinking like 15 to 20 years. You have to make, once they give you the money, you have to make those bond payments. That's like one of the most important things in this country, the laws and priority. But I'm against congestion pricing because this is another drain on our economic prosperity. Do we really need another tax to move in New York City for mobility purposes? And then also it's an equity issue. Basically, only the very wealthy will be able to drive into Manhattan. And then everyone else will have to take mass transit or bicycles. And then the other reason is the MTA. It'll never be enough money for the MTA. You can give them this money, they're gonna come back 3 years from now saying they need more money. $600 million in fare revenue was lost last year. They did not collect it. Why not collect all of the fare and toll revenue first before you come asking for money? And then what was the last one? Yeah, that's really it. And once we let this start, the zone will increase and then the tolls will increase. It'll never end. And then also, Zach was talking about how they track you once you come in. And doesn't that find a little worrying that they're gonna track you wherever you go? And how do you know they're not gonna make a mistake in the future with the tracking? Then you get billed, you get erroneously billed.
That was it.
Just saying,
They already tracked this stuff.
Mhm.
There were already Easy Pass readers all over the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, but also, it's not really tracking. It's kind of, and just to like explain how it works, because I learned from this, it's like, it's an algorithm. So they have only like a few verification points along West Street. And they're going to get you at one point and then get you at the other point. And they're going to determine based on traffic flow and time of day, how much time it takes to get from one to the other. And if you don't get there, then it should take. If you don't get there in that amount of time, they're going to assume that you went off the street. So interesting, but that's how it's, they're not really tracking. They're
Right now, there's no traffic. You
they're
can go down.
making
quickly.
assumptions about traffic flow and verifying at you at different points along the way.
1 in the morning.
I just want to toss out a fact, like respectfully disagreeing with everyone who, argues that this is just a revenue stream. I mean, congestion pricing it was first proposed by the economist William Vickery in 1952 as a way to monetize like the space on the streets. I mean, because, to reduce congestion, it was all about like, we give away all of this space to cars for free, so why are we doing that for free when, a couple of SUVs take up the space of a small studio in Manhattan, come on.
Because people.
Their own report said that there were other options to reduce congestion and pollution that would reach the requirements that they were looking for, but those options wouldn't make them any money. That's why we have congestion pricing. There were other options.
There were people that live in different neighborhoods where we're spoiled down here. We have so many different options. There are people that live in
Can we go
different
back to the
neighborhoods
resolution?
that are a couple of times a month.
Well, actually, I have a comment that I want to,
Nobody,
And we have a couple
nobody
more.
drives to work every
you
day.
can go to them first, because I have the
Okay.
wording I want to
Yeah,
Okay.
propose.
and again, like we argued about congestion pricing last time. I'm happy to do it anytime you want, but, right now, we're just talking about recommendations.
What about the 24/7 thing, Jesse? I mean, was that something like not for or against, but where like, it's not to force somebody to, to take mass transit home at 1 o'clock in the morning when, like from here or after seeing like an off like showcase on Avenue A and 12th Street.
What would the recommendation be?
Something like, if it's really about the congestion, I mean, like we're not in the congestion,
Central business zone.
what's the zone,
Congestion zone,
Right.
Central business.
so this is not the central business district, but that being said, something like the bus lanes where it's like, no, like Monday through Friday, this hour to
But that-
6,
that-
7
that is
AM,
what it is.
7 PM. I mean, when we walk home, there's no traffic at all. And I wouldn't want my daughter taking, or my mother taking a bus or train home to certain neighborhoods where I grew up, at,
So they made adjustments to the pricing.
I'm sorry?
They made adjustments to the pricing based on time.
No, I know that. I'm saying there should be, there should be no pricing like the 24, like for, people like with different shifts, the visiting nurse that had to go visit my mother at 2 o'clock in the
You're saying
morning.
different times for different people?
No, I'm saying that it shouldn't be 24/7.
It's not. That's what I'm saying.
It is, it is.
It's not.
It's just cheaper at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday night.
Yes.
I'm saying that it should be, like, if it's for the congestion, like respectfully, like Cody said, and it's not just for a revenue-based thing, then, business hours, Monday through Friday, and not, or maybe, in the Midtown area, but not like not 24/7. I think that forcing somebody not to have a family member drive your mother home at 3 o'clock in the morning because of something, and there's somebody lives here, or they have to pass through, it's cruel to have somebody have to take the train or have to take the bus.
The charge with a 75% discount for overnight rate, the off-peak rate, it's less than $4.
I understand that,
Almost the
Jesse.
price of taking the subway. It's so.
If my daughter wanted to give her mother a ride home at 3 o'clock in the morning, like I'm saying, it shouldn't be 24/7. Make the train, make everything else safer first, but it shouldn't be 24/7. If it's really about congestion, okay, if it's really about congestion and not just a tax revenue, then not 24/7. Business hours, Monday through Friday. And, there should be no charge at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, or somebody having to drop somebody off on their way home from Brooklyn, and they're dropping their daughter off on Avenue A and Third Street.
Okay, so just, I want to be clear, like, you can do that, right? We can recommend business hours, whatever it is. If you were to do that, because of the restrictions,
Right.
that charge, that $15 base charge is gonna go way up to the point that
But that's
you
if
would
you-
say is way
I
up.
don't go by the premise, okay, and
But that's the framework we're
That's
working.
why they won't do it.
right, no, I understand that, but until,
You can't do it.
and like we even discussed it, like I said, Governor Cuomo came out with an article that he was originally for it, and because of the pandemic and other things, so we're not discussing.
He's running for office again, so,
Well, Betty,
Now he's right.
just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it's not valid.
No, that's just.
Hold on.
I don't mean to be.
Let's make sure everyone gets in here.
What do you, I didn't get an answer. What does everybody else think about not recommending not 24/7, but keeping it business hours?
Code.
I don't know, this may be would require billions more probably in infrastructure costs, but instead of one zone, have subzones within the zone. In other words, on a Friday night in East Village, when it's really congested, perhaps that area would be like, do you do?
He's dancing. He's like, when you're out dancing.
But that's not fine.
Yes,
But-
yes.
Again,
Let's
so-
have it go. Charge more money.
Remember last time I went through a series of things that are in the law that cannot be changed, right? The
Right.
congestion zone is one of them. So that could be a topic for another day or,
Okay. Well, this is subzones.
What do you think about the 24/7 thing, Cody? Well, if anybody else, not 24/7, but if it's for congestion, then, the 7 AM to 7 PM, Monday through Friday or something like that.
For free?
No, not
Eric, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I want to add, and I know that for sure, construction occurs in the subway system at night. So it's not always a viable option. They do it on the nights, on the midnights and on the weekends. So saying that mass transit is always available in a timely basis, it's not true. They do provide ultimate service, but it'll take longer, and it could be a really roundabout route. So I don't think, I'm against congestion pricing, but it should not be on the midnights. It definitely should not be on the midnight.
Does anybody else have any
What?
feelings about it? Not 24/7?
I think it's okay to be 24/7.
Okay.
Because like, this is pretty reasonable.
Mhm.
Like, it'll be like a little bit more than $3. So, but hold on, so like, what is a truck?
Yeah, so when you asked that last time,
Yeah.
I looked into it and I don't know.
Okay,
I think the only concrete answer I got was that the large trucks like have to have like a trailer attached to them, like a tractor trailer, like that's.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Or like a box
Do you know,
truck,
Casey? You
something
know?
that's tall.
I am not certain.
Yeah, I don't know if that answer exists yet. A lot of vehicles are still.
And I have one more question. What is a specialized government vehicle? Like
Yeah.
specialized, does it
It
have,
was trash and sanitation truck.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the examples they give, but.
but like one of the, what is it, the cute little Mustangs that they have under the building here? Are
They don't
those
give those as
specialized?
examples.
Because I'm curious if fleet vehicles count as a specialized.
No,
government.
those would be standard.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now, the
Okay.
city vehicles aren't exempt. There are people coming with placards. They did not give exemptions to the policemen, the firemen.
Which
Anyway.
city resolutions in the past have.
I've asked you
Yeah, like-
this.
Nothing says commercial vehicle on here, so there's specialized government vehicle, like if that makes sense, but like trucks, like is that a commercial vehicle or is that somebody that has a really big SUV that is equivalent to some of the for hire vehicles, like those really huge Suburbans and such? Like those are the same size as an F-150 randomly selected vehicle. So, not that I would ever drive in the city, but I'm just curious if those count as trucks.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, actually, the thing that I saw about trucks, you had to be very truck-like to be a truck.
Trucky?
The things that were pickup trucks and things didn't really count as trucks.
Okay, and would like an Amazon van count as a truck?
I don't think so.
I don't think that the descriptions were, there are two levels of trucks. The ones were like the very large box trucks and the others were the articulated trucks, which are even bigger, the 18-wheelers. I mean, it's a pretty big truck to be counted as a truck.
When the cost is gonna be
Different
passed along to the consumer.
Vehicles, big car-like vehicles, vans, they don't count.
Okay, thank you.
Let's get these people online. Sean?
Couple quick follow-ups that I want to mention. One was for the late night or 24/7 discussion. I don't know about folks here, but I've taken the subway at late night, 2 a.m. And it's the type of thing that always benefits from more people taking it. It benefits from network effects. It's like biking. The more people take it, the safer it is, because there's more people around to help you. So I felt very safe at 2 a.m. on the subway on a Saturday night, on a Friday night, New Year's Day, less so, I think, on a weekday. And so if we want to talk about making our daughters and mothers safer, we actually want to incentivize some people taking public transit, because if we push everyone out of it, it becomes really, really unsafe. And then we really don't want anyone to take it. And the $3.75 overnight is still less than the $5.80 that two people would have to pay to take the subway. So in my opinion, the overnight rate isn't high enough because it's incentivizing people to take cars over public transit, which makes public transit less safe. Briefly on the taxis point, taxis, I don't know about you all, but my personal experience is I see a lot of taxis right now on the streets paying the current prices. With congestion pricing, I think we'll see much higher percentages of taxis on the road, both because owning a personal vehicle gets more expensive, and because there's just more space for them with less personal vehicles on the road. So I think you do need to increase the charge. Otherwise, it's going to be just taxis flooded everywhere. And then last point for residents, I don't know the exact stat, but I think we have close to 1 million people living in the central business district zone. And if all of those could have a car for free here, I think there would be 24/7 gridlock. And I think everyone here has mentioned that gridlock is bad. So I don't think that's a super interesting solution. That's all, thanks.
Most people don't have a car showing down here.
Thank you, Sean.
You have to think about other people that live in Co-op City, that live.
But yeah, I mean, personally, I like the recommendations the way they are. I would probably vote against this the way it is, just because I think I agree a resident exemption is a massive loophole in it, and would lead to the charge going up.
Well, is there any point in asking for an exemption for residents, because that's already been turned down once?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I mean, what does people think?
I think from gathering from just talking to people on the community board outside of this, this transportation committee, I feel that more than half of the community board agrees with a resident exemption,
I would probably agree with you.
you know? And doesn't, and what you said, Jesse, about then pitting like one citizen against another, but then a rate for somebody else goes up, which is the way that they made the metrics like that, that many of the people don't agree with the way the metrics were based to have that result, but I think that some of those recommendations that you put up there, I think more than half would agree with that.
I don't think, anyone should be getting an exemption, because I think that ultimately the benefits of less congestion will benefit us and drivers as well. People will be, 20 years from now thinking, my goodness, like, why didn't we do that before? And so, most people don't take a drive down here, like, because they, like, unless they're really rich, sometimes you have to, I'm sorry, Betty, I'm sorry.
I'm personally hopeful for the resident exemption, and I think it follows the London model, which is what supposedly the congestion pricing scheme was to be based off entirely. But all that aside, I think just politics of this for a second within our own community board, taking that out now would be inconsistent with what our prior positions have been, what we urged our elected officials to fight for over the years. And quite frankly, it's just going to lead to a disaster at the end of the month when we're at the full board, and it's going to lead to a motion to amend. And I think if there is a strong case to be made for taking it out, it should be made by a motion to amend at the full board. It's maybe the easiest way to do it.
One thing on the London, because they mentioned this in the report.
Yeah.
The London model, apparently you get charged no matter where you go. You take your car out, you get charged. Here, it's only if you enter.
But if there's an exemption, how does that, I didn't understand, I saw that in the report, and I didn't understand that logic. If there's a true exemption, who cares how many times you come in or out?
Well, because it's not an exemption, it's a 90%.
Right.
Yeah.
But you'd have to, under a $15 per day charge, you'd have to come in and out of the zone. I mean, a lot, you'd have to.
Yeah.
Making that work for yourself to sort of, it's just the math of it didn't make any sense.
But City of London, where it started, was only 1 square mile. I had a cousin that worked in the zone.
Yep.
So again, a lot of the stuff that's been added on to the zone getting bigger dwarfs that population anyway. They also put on which is even more cost, putting on to the pollution levels of the kind of car that you have. They also have no free parking, which gets rid of a lot of cars in the first place, because there's nowhere to put it for free. So once you're paying all this money for parking.
But is it in London, correct me if I'm wrong, it's really in the central business district?
It's in the city, yeah.
It's not, so, and I'm not talking about square footage because, we're a congested like island, but it's just in this real central business district. It's not like, coming all the way down to other neighborhoods that really are not in the central business
Otherwise,
district.
the City of London is only 1 square mile.
Right, so it's,
Not even central London.
it's not apples to apples.
Right.
It's, because like I said, they don't have the free parking there in a small space, and the zone is like here, but then, like, there's neighborhoods that, and like, I think you guys have mentioned, like, then there's these special days where there's congestion alerts because there's a dignitary coming to the United Nations, but that doesn't affect people in Battery Park City or people on the Lower East Side.
It does actually, because it diverts traffic down here.
Honestly, the emission zones are way bigger and it's greater London.
But the London, like I said, so some things are applicable, and I think that like that central business district is totally different than the way they have the zone here, where it goes into many other neighborhoods.
Betty, didn't you say you wanted to add some stuff?
Do the
Yes.
diplomats get
charged? Yes, well, they're drivers.
Anyway.
They probably don't.
Taxpayers do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wanted to,
Must have
one of the
paid
things that
attention.
was not defined in the legislation was, just as low income wasn't defined, either when vehicles for disabled people. So I went after that one because it really annoyed me. And we're trying to get the wording I proposed, because I have two whereases and then the follow-up therefore be its own. And this will probably describe it better than anything that I say ad hoc. So whereas vehicles with government issued, let me tell you what the recommendation is. The recommendation from the TMRB is that they should include vehicles with government issued disability license plates and vehicles owned or operated by organizations that provide transportation for people with disabilities. This is where Accept a Ride would fall into this group, as well as a lot of these various organizations. The first one, vehicles with government issued disability license plates, mean any state in the country. They have little disability plates would be exempt. So I oppose that. Whereas vehicles with government issued disability license plates, a category recommended by the TMRB for tolling exemption, would have two implementation problems. First, not all states have a reciprocal agreement with New York State DMV. So checking for valid plates would be impossible. Second, there's no way to know if people with a disability are in the vehicle. Next, whereas, giving tolling exemptions to vehicles with government issued disability license plates introduced two significant inequities. First, vehicles carrying people with medical appointments are not recommended for exemptions, in part because, and I quote, Access a Ride paratransit service provides public transportation for eligible customers with disabilities or health conditions to prevent them from using public buses and subway for some of their trips. That was part of the TMRB's comment. This same rationale should also exclude exempting private vehicles for people with disabilities, because they can also use Access a Ride. Second, only giving exemptions to the very, very tiny percent of people with disabilities who have the money and the ability to drive, that are registered owners of a vehicle, because that's part of the kicker. You have to be a registered owner, which they can't check from other states, but nevertheless. It does not address equity or the needs of the disabled community. So, what I ask for, and therefore be it resolved, qualifying vehicles transporting people with disabilities should only include vehicles owned and operated by organizations that provide transportation to people with disabilities, not private vehicles with government issued disability license plates as recommended. Determining if disability license plates are legal, if the vehicle contains a person with a disability, giving exemptions to the very few who can afford to own a private vehicle, and an inconsistency with the TMRB recommendation that people with medical conditions not be exempt, since they can use Access a Ride, are all problematic and reasons to not exempt private vehicles.
That's kind of cruel to force some people to have to use Access a Ride when there's so many problems with that, and maybe a family member wants to take their relative to.
We'll get to the point though, but what about, I mean, I believe me, I know it's bad about Access.
No, I know that, I know that you said you're against that. I mean, I'm for that to help people in your situation. I mean,
Yeah, no, they are, no one's arguing if they exist and they will get an exemption.
right.
No one's
Am I
arguing against them.
misunderstanding something now?
I think.
No, you're not misunderstanding.
I'm saying if I go buy a car and have a license plate on it, I'm exempt.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
It sounds like you think that people will get government issued plates
Let me put it another way.
because they want to be exempt from.
They get them for lots of reasons anyway. I worked in this field. This is my area of expertise. You know, I had a friend that I worked with, also a professor in physical therapy. Her niece was deaf. And she was approached about getting disabled plates, well, at that point, the hanging thing, because she was too young to drive,
Right.
because of her deafness. Does that mean that she can't take mass transit?
But Betty,
I'll take mass transit.
there's gonna be.
Well, but what about learning disabilities are the biggest kind of disability in the country? So what you're thinking of as disabled, it's a very, very broad spectrum of people.
Yeah, you know what?
I mean, people with flat feet.
We need to be, if it's not about revenue, then I think we need to err on the side of being humane.
What's humane?
You know, something, there's gonna be fraud in anything. So because there's gonna be fraud, then the majority of disabled people that maybe need a ride, that don't wanna have to wait 3 hours for Access-a-Ride and then get messed up, you know, I would rather err on the side of being humane and having those exceptions for people in need.
Are they in need? You can buy the plates online. You can't check with other states at all,
And,
and you don't know they're in your car.
Yeah, Betty, you're 100% correct. And how many people cheat on their taxes? So let's get rid of the tax structure because, you know, there's 50% of the country cheats on their taxes. I mean, there's gonna be fraud in anything. So, and I mean, I just come, an empathetic point of view.
I think a lot of these aren't, I'm not calling them fraud with their plates. I'm saying, do they need an exemption? So they can't take mass transit.
Yeah, if I see a deaf or a blind person, I see them on the train, I'm on the
Well, a
train.
blind person's not gonna have the plates that count.
I don't know,
But
maybe
you have to be the owner of the car.
see what are some of the other people
I'm
think.
okay with them having an exemption, especially if we're saying that we want residents to have an exemption. I think what Mitch is trying to say is that like what we're trying to call out is fraud. But I don't think it's our role to call that out because it's gonna happen anyway. And I think there are reasons for people with disabilities, with varying disabilities, to take private cars, not even private cars, but also other ways of transit outside of public transit that like I'm okay with. Because I don't think, like, I mean, we don't need to, like,
Private car in this case.
you said it would have to be a private car?
Because the person has to be the owner of record for that vehicle.
Yeah, I'm okay with
It's
that.
kind of tricky.
I mean, honestly, I'm probably okay with like a lot of exemptions because like, I'm just like, this is kind of a BS thing anyway, so. But I okay with a lot of people.
I hear what you're saying, and it sounds a little bit like taking away all the public restrooms because some homeless people might use them.
Yeah,
It's not just fraud though, right? I mean, it's just that it's a lot of vehicles, like it's a lot of vehicles that are gonna get exempt this way.
And I haven't even seen,
but
I
we
don't
can-
know what the New York State.
We
Like, looks
are
like,
privileged.
but I haven't seen it, and I kind of
Well,
dropped.
three of them on my blog.
And you don't think that they should be exempt?
But I'm not surprised to be exempt.
Well, they're on your
Oh,
list,
these
they
are-
would be exempt anyway, if we got a residential exemption.
Well, I don't think you're gonna get that. No, I think each of these things has to stand on their own.
Yeah, I think because historically we've said that we should get a residential exemption, we do need to. I am on the side of keeping that in there, and I think that what you're proposing does sound like we're assuming there's fraud.
No, it's not. It's saying treat them the same way you treat going to medical appointments. If I'm going for chemo, if I'm going for radiation, if I'm going for dialysis, the argument of the TMRB is they can use Access-a-Ride or one of the other options. They don't need an exemption. I'm saying, why do people with disabled plates, which have so many problems with dealing with them, why do they qualify and not get the same response from the TMRB? I don't, it's an inconsistency to me.
Does Access-a-Ride get benefits from congestion pricing?
They're part of the MTA in that sense.
Interesting.
So you're saying that if somebody's going for chemo, just for example, I think, because I'm not sure I heard you correctly, that they want to induce them to take Access-a-Ride as opposed to somebody giving them a ride from Throgs Neck or Bensonhurst or.
No exemption, yes.
Yeah, I think that's inhumane.
But that's what I'm saying, to be consistent with it, if that's good enough for that group and that's what the.
Well,
TMRB
that's,
decided,
well, one second, and then I swear I'm gonna stop. That just because, you know, it's like two wrongs don't make a right, just because I think that's inhumane, but because it's not consistent with the other inhumane, so then we're gonna make it, you know, it's like, yeah, that falls under two wrongs don't make a right in my book.
I
Cody.
think what Betty is saying, if there's a mechanism already in existence that they've evidenced in the policy to cover that use case, and so those specific personal vehicles shouldn't be exempt. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, especially since all 50 states, it could be Puerto Rico. I've seen other kinds of plates on the street. If any government issued plate is the wording they use.
Sorry.
As far as, someone going for a chemo treatment or whatever, I mean, a medical appointment, there's no tag, no official state tag, right? That says I'm going for a medical appointment. So it's just, the apparatus, the infrastructure's there, so.
True, but I'm saying the same thing is true here. This is not enforceable.
Well, what about for, just New York folks with, or New York plates somehow?
People say a lot in these points.
It's not if it's not enforceable, leave it off. I mean, just as in good spirit.
Yeah, Betty, I agree with you, actually. I do. I do. It's practical and some fairness. And I do think there'll be, especially if this is implemented, there will be a lot of fraud. There'll be all these applications.
Right.
But I'd like to add the change, it should be for nonprofit organizations that transport disabled. So that to
You
make
mean
it.
not the MTA?
I used to love you.
Wait, understand, like.
Do you mean instead of accessorized?
No, have accessorized, but Betty was saying that groups that transport, disabled should get
Exemption.
Yeah, that's
exception.
their wording, yes.
That's how it currently.
I think.
The way it is, it should include vehicles with government issued disability plates and vehicles owned or operated by organizations that provide transportation for people with
But they
disabilities.
should be, I'm favoring nonprofit.
Restrict it more.
Yeah, because you could have some organizations that are for-profit doing it, and I'm hesitant about giving them exemptions if they're for-profit.
Like a private ambulance.
Gives anybody
companies to
exemptions.
Hire a private ambulance.
Exemption anyway.
Oh, well then,
They don't worry about ambulances.
they're in trucks.
Maybe like an living place, maybe.
So like an Uber with accessibility or something like that.
That's tough. That's
Yeah,
tough.
no, those
Yeah.
don't.
There's people on the streets
Make it hot.
in daylight,
Yeah.
leave everybody, exempt everybody.
And that's why consider this, if I go take an Uber, because I'll use me as an example, I'm not picking on somebody else. If I go on an Uber, I pay the congestion fee that goes with that, and there are two levels of it, the old congestion and then the new one that's been put on here. I'm still disabled, I'm still paying that. If I go take a mass transit ride, an accessor rider though, I don't get waived from paying a fee, but if I own a private vehicle, I can go for free. That just doesn't make.
Well, that they should, the other one should be should be exempt for free, instead of making this, because those are bad.
You want the whole system to collapse, but we're trying to keep.
No, I want it to be humane. I want it to be humane, Betty, because we're lucky that we can, if we have to take the train to get somewhere, most of us can. But, I mean, I feel funny saying this to you because, but my heart breaks when I see some people navigating the public transit system that are in your situation at all hours of the night, that I feel like I want to like carry them up the stairs. I mean, it's.
We fight to make the system better for them. And I mean, that for all disabled populations. I think, that needs to be done, but that doesn't mean that you give everybody a free ride to.
Partly with funds from congestion pricing.
Oh, Jesse.
So people that live in Brooklyn that take the bridge over, hop onto the conduits out that like lead directly out of the congestion zone, they won't have to pay anything.
Wait, say that again, so.
So like if someone comes in from Brooklyn, goes over the Brooklyn Bridge, ends up on the West Side Highway, goes up to the hospital,
You go around the FDR.
Yeah.
they, or however,
Yeah.
if they stay on those roads,
Only the
they
east side,
won't,
maybe.
they won't even need to be exempt. They would just, the exemption really matters for people that live in the district.
No, you come to Lower Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital.
Oh,
You'd be
right.
coming into the zone.
Yeah.
You know,
You go to NYU, you'd be going into the zone.
Yeah.
But you're just talking about private cars.
Yeah, in this case, I'm talking about private vehicles. Saying, cut them out of the recommendation and say, why are we allowing private vehicles with any government disability plate, which cannot be checked?
I mean,
This is,
I'm slightly more convinced, but I think that there's probably 1,001 situations I'm not thinking of, or 1,001 disabilities that I'm not thinking of, where it makes sense for somebody with a private vehicle that is disabled to have that, and that has to travel far and or often. And I don't want them to have to be paying out the wazoo because they can't take public transportation and they don't have the time to wait on a accessory ride and pay for that. Like I think that's where I'm having problems with it. Because there's probably a situation where it actually does make sense.
I agree with Jenny. I grew up with a kid that had issues. And the family had a van with a lift and
Right, but
everything.
they wouldn't be exempt.
I know. And that seems like they should be.
But they wouldn't by their recommendation. So it's still.
At the current recommendation, if they have the
Current
license plate.
recommendation is the license plate with the child owning the car.
Whoa.
Yeah, the disabled person has to be the name on the
Other
registration.
states, it's different, where like somebody
Why
that's
you think
handicapped,
it's
like has a disability, lives with the family, they could say, this vehicle.
Exactly. Look at the
But it's
inequities and
different
craziness
that-
there.
there's gonna be fraud
So a kid
everywhere.
would have to own a car
In New York, yes,
for there to be.
the disabled plate on it, yes.
But what if, say, for example,
The DMV.
somebody is, because this is one thing you brought up, somebody's bipolar, they need to go see their therapist and psychiatrist 5 times a week, I don't know, and, you know, mental illness is different. And we're saying that now because we're not gonna give you exemption, that person can own the car and have the handicap, because you're not gonna get the exemption, you're paying, you know, a couple $100 a week just because you don't have the exemption. And I don't think that's quite fair. I want that person to be able
Why
to
can't
get,
they take mass transit? They own a vehicle and can drive around under those stressful conditions.
It's
So they
different.
medicate-
yeah, it's very different, yeah. I get stressed, and I don't have bipolar. Like, I get stressed taking public transportation. I can imagine somebody with a mental illness, varying mental illnesses, like it being worse, being forced to take it. So me sitting in my car by myself or with one other person is much more doable than taking an hour public transportation to get to my therapist.
Getting agitated.
Especially if you live in some of the outer boroughs. I mean, it's really not so much for the people that live down here. It's more for people that live in the outer boroughs.
And choose to
That,
come here.
well, Betty,
Well-
no, that's not right. Some people don't choose.
Otherwise, it wouldn't apply to them.
Well, maybe some people needed to go to a certain hospital or a certain doctor that happens to be in the zone because that's life-saving, and they live far out in one of the boroughs, and it's not, it's not just so much for us. We have to think about other people also that have no choice to come 2 or 3 times a week. You can't always choose where you work and what doctors.
Some people move here to go.
I'm sure we can move this along. I don't think we're gonna anticipate every
Okay.
permutation of this, and certainly it's not, we're gonna reach consensus around this point or
I mean,
agreement with what Betty's proposed, so I'm just suggesting perhaps we.
I agree with the suggestion. Cody, do you have?
Well, okay,
Okay.
that's where, I think this is an equity issue, I don't know this for fact, but I would wager the majority of folks who have a disability in New York City do not own a car, a private car. And, we're affording a privilege or a discount to folks who already have more access to a private vehicle than most New Yorkers have.
So what did you?
Do you want to vote on including that particular provision or do you want?
Oh, you think that is?
Yeah.
You can take a poll on,
How many
it sounds like
people?
in general, there's no consensus for it.
You want to vote on whether we would accept anything or not?
Just poll it.
Yeah, how many would be in favor of including it?
Including what Betty said?
Yeah, including. I assume you would be in
Yeah.
favor. Yeah. So. More than half. But I wouldn't include me in that because I'm probably gonna vote against this anyway. So I wouldn't include me in that.
So we're like 50-50.
So are we leaving it out?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's 50-50, let's put it in and take to the full board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be a long night.
Yeah.
Can you go first?
Well,
Yes.
if it doesn't,
Okay.
but if it didn't pass here, then we just,
No, I think we were right at 50-50.
I'm sorry,
I think we were right at
Well, if you
50-50.
get people on.
I goes to the runner. Who's the runner? You want me?
I think it was,
Mhm, she's behind.
Who's the one that's there?
No.
My mom, dad.
I go to the one that's there.
Detta, do you want to say anything about this particular issue?
You're the tiebreaker, Detta.
She's.
Not actually found that.
All the emotions.
All right, we have a decision to make. We just vote on both, see what happens.
Both, three things?
Why don't-
They know he's saying this with it and without it.
Yeah.
with,
Maybe we could vote on it without it, so we kind of record how people are feeling generally, and then make a motion to amend, and then see how that goes.
Okay. So
One suggestion.
someone want to call for a certain question?
I'll do it. I call for the question.
And you can say that.
Okay.
And this is for the
It's without. any
Without.
changes, it's just.
current resolution.
on the
The
screen.
two things that were there,
Only two things.
which is the resident exemption and then some mystery thing that I don't remember.
Oh yeah, so we should make sure we're clear on that. Currently, it's low income individuals, under $60,000 within the zone, and then some undefined amount, maybe
$50,000.
$50,000 for everyone, they would get a certain discount. That's based on, like, it's based on the tax credit, so you pay it up front and then you get a tax credit back.
I thought Betty put that it would be upfront, you wouldn't pay it as opposed to the tax
That's what I'm
credit.
saying, what the
There are two
recommendation
different
is-
groups.
is now.
Okay,
Hold on.
sure.
And then, so the recommendation that we're putting in there is that they should have an upfront, that their exemption and discount should be upfront,
Oh, yeah,
Right.
of course.
so that they don't have to.
Pay upfront and then wait a whole year.
Yes.
Yes. For some people that are gig workers don't.
And I believe
Yeah.
for the under $50,000, that you actually, you do apply upfront currently. So it really only would affect the residents within the zone, this $1,000.
So the ones for 50,000, and it is adjusted income, for those who want to know.
Yeah.
It's, the first 10 trips are full, and then you get an exemption.
So the first 10 are 50% off,
50,000.
and then you get that.
Most people wouldn't be coming in
It's
tense.
a lot. A lot.
The feds required that. Oh,
Well,
okay, that's citywide, but it's.
So that's in there too. So it's those two things. That's it, which is.
50%.
nice.
For 10 trips.
750.
All right,
Alright,
It's
so the
75.
question is there, can we vote?
70
Yes, let's vote.
Yeah. To drive for a year.
so we're voting on those two things?
Oh.
If you're taking the car every.
Yes?
Yes, okay.
Thank
20
you.
minutes.
Let's just go through
Good
it.
deal.
Betty,
I know.
Wait, are we roll calling? Is that what?
Mhm.
yeah,
I meant to know,
so, no,
Are you the first vote?
Mhm.
I guess.
You wanted to vote. It's
sorry,
roll call.
Jess,
So sorry.
No.
I mean,
We're just voting on the two things.
Just the two things.
Yes.
What are we voting on? Hold on. They just said it.
Okay.
The Chinese bread thing.
Two changes to the current recommendations we're voting on.
Okay.
One is a resident exemption.
Mhm.
Two is that the exemption for people making below $60,000 within the zone will get an upfront exemption.
For the tax credit.
Okay.
So that's the only thing we're voting on.
That's it for now.
Mitch,
Yes, sir.
Patrick,
Yes.
Cody,
No?
no,
No.
Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
No.
okay, and Detta,
She's not on.
it's not here, so,
Is Mark in this, group
uh,
anymore?
4 yes, 5 no.
Alright. Well, that
A lot
answers
of
everything.
privileged people.
nothing to amend.
So, okay.
So the
So
feeling's gonna change them for good.
I'm gonna guess that just adding in your proposed, therefore be it resolved change anyone's vote.
Well, I'm for this, I'm against that, so.
Would you vote against it if it was included? Sorry, but we have to do this.
That's what like Mitch McConnell does.
What
like,
else
puts
can we
different
tag on?
things.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the consensus building then.
I don't
Right.
know.
Chair
I
co-chair.
promise you, Mitch McConnell's not the only one who does that.
I know,
Would
I'm
you vote
confused,
yes
I'm,
to it?
it's a quagmire.
Would you vote yes?
Did you vote yes?
I'm gonna vote against it so long as the resident.
So the tax, even if you get your thing in there, you're gonna vote against it?
Correct. I disagree so strongly with the.
Why are we even gonna talk about it?
So I think that gives us our answer.
Hold on, I like the tax credit thing. Oh, I hate the tax credit thing. Like what,
So you're suggesting that we
just only that one? thing?
Yeah, I would, to answer your question, Jesse, I would still vote yes. I think that the resident exemption and the tax credit up front outweighs the negative of adding what I don't like.
Okay.
So I
This
would
doesn't
stay
sound
the
like it would
same.
change any no's to yeses, so we're back to where we are. Okay, we have the option to just do the tax credit, take out the resident exemption, but as Patrick said, that will probably get amended at full board and shoved down our throats. Which is, just say, chips fall where they may. I'm okay with
Oh,
that,
no,
but-
it's
I, I think we would just have to tell them why we removed the exemption.
I think the full board is much more than 50% for the for the resident exemption.
Well, then they could vote for it to be added.
Okay.
Making a vote to-
Yeah, but our expert opinion would be to not include it.
We have to do
And
our work.
coming in with a resolution, to me, I think is better, even if it's not perfect, and letting it be amended then at the full board versus not coming in with anything. And I get the sense that perhaps part of the no vote we just encountered too is a bit of, people just don't like just pricing. As a basic sense. And, we hear we're dealing with a narrower issue about, what do we recommend now that it's going to happen anyway? But I think going to the full board with some kind of resolution versus having it be proposed as something written on the fly in new business is just a much better way to go, so.
I agree with Patrick.
Upfront exemption.
Down the street.
Well, you're saying that one of us should change to a yes, that we go in with something that we think.
Or get rid of exemption like that amended.
Oh, is that what you're saying, that we should get rid of the resident exemption? And
Oh, man.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what it takes.
I'm honestly so lost at the moment, but what I'm saying is that we go in with a resolution. If the sense of this committee is that we go in, we can adopt a resolution at a committee. If it doesn't have the resident exemption, we'll try that.
Okay.
It's
so
better to
go
do
with
something.
nothing.
Then
I agree.
Then you can amend.
I just think of somebody like Mariama, who has some medically challenged children, and has to go like almost like 4 or 5 times a week out of the zone and back into the zone to take her kids to the hospital and the doctor. I mean, there has to be so many other people with situations like that, that we just can't all think of just our own privilege, that it is not gonna affect us as much as it might affect some other people. And even if it's a minority of people that it affects, I still stand on the humane part,
So what would we be voting on now?
I want to just vote on the
We just want there.
It would just be
The exemption.
$60,000.
Yeah. So just a $60,000 exemption instead of the tax credit, because then.
Be upfront.
Yeah, for the,
But the problem with that is state law. If you don't change the state law resolution to the MTA, that's a big issue.
why do we have it on there?
I don't know.
No, I think he has it on there because they want to do a tax credit, and this one says that for people that are making under a certain amount, it shouldn't be a tax credit, it should be a waiver upfront.
The law is my point.
So
It
your
is,
point,
Yes.
Betty's
I-
point is that the tax credit is already in the law, so it might not matter if we say anything about it.
Well-
Is that right?
That's true.
This is not
That
the targeted group to go after.
that
You
is
want
the law.
to change, go to your state legislator.
But hold on, I don't know if that's necessary, because it is in the law, but this is a situation where we're not changing the law, we're kind of going
Yeah.
more than the law. So
Yeah.
like, they've created a program for people under $50,000, but that's not in the law, so why can't they do
The
it?
feds require
So-
that.
I mean,
Yeah, but it's- but-
we're opining on something, whether it's, I mean, there's so many,
We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, it's possible, but you are right that it is. in the
Especially
Do you
for,
wanna
for
call
gig,
a
for gig
motion
workers,
for the-
that tax credit
this
almost
thing?
sometimes means nothing
And then we
because,
can vote on it
you
and
know,
see.
they're laying out money, living week to week and.
Yeah,
they-
so
Let's,
I think we need to have something.
Let's call that to motion.
Let's do it.
Second it.
let's do it. Okay.
Call
So we are now just voting on the tax credit issue.
Yes.
All right, the way it was written on the,
$50,000 one.
Jesse, where it's up front now?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Roll call?
Vote number 2.
Betty,
McCarthy here.
Oh, yeah.
Jess,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Mitch,
I'm yes for any exemption.
Mitch, yeah,
Yeah, yes.
Patrick.
I'm abstaining.
After all that?
I think he's gonna have the right.
He's feeling good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna torpedo, well, I guess I am.
Yes, it happens.
Brendan,
Yes.
Eric.
No.
Hey, 7-2.
So that passes. Do we want to bring up baddies in this, or do you want to bring that up at full board? As an
It would
amendment?
have to, anything else would have to be an amendment. since
Okay.
it's already passed.
Let's do that.
Yeah, but I think you can amend it here.
Yeah.
We could amend it here, and then if we don't, if the amendment doesn't pass, we still put the other thing in.
I think it wasn't gonna pass there anyway,
This,
correct?
I don't think.
You know, full, that wasn't gonna pass anyway.
I
Yes.
said it was 50.
I feel
No,
wishy-washy.
why? On its own.
I feel wishy-washy about that.
It was on its own.
I'm just like, nah.
I guess I don't have a shot here.
Oh,
You're 24,
I have-
not 24/7.
Also, Data's like back and forth, so I don't know if she's around or not.
I feel wishy-washy about that,
Right.
because I'm like, it would be fine. I don't
All
know.
right, so that one passed. Do we want to move on or not?
Unless there are any other motions.
I'm just saying, but if you wanna hear the amendment,
Leave it for
which
the
is
full
fine
board.
with me, I'll just.
Do you want to
You want.
motion to?
Well, I think it's really important to do, but
it-
again, I don't decide for other people, so if
Yeah.
it's not gonna pass, I don't wanna waste everybody's time.
But if you want to do the motion,
We can vote and see.
yeah.
See,
I make a motion and I amend
I'll say,
previous resolution. And it's the same wording as. You want me to read it all?
We got it. Straw poll, hands in favor?
This is under the.
yeah.
Two
I'm
votes,
okay with
I
it.
got it.
I mean, I want to see how it goes full board of these.
Yeah, that's.
Is it, this is the vote for Betty's amendment, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
just to
With all due
the
respect, Betty.
exemption.
Oh. Oh, you got,
So yes.
you got majority by 1.
All right, so I made it.
Yes, it would be just to omit the private vehicles under that, not the other.
This is going to be very interesting.
And I will submit this on my own as
Full
well.
board over the.
Sorry, yes,
All
it's
three
order.
board members
Betty,
against
Jess,
pedestrian crossing in general,
Maybe,
then
over to you.
Nada.
Yeah.
Oh, that is back.
And yeah, you can take that as a vote.
Oh, she's gone again.
okay.
I got it. Okay.
All right, I think we're ready. Next up.
We good now?
Do we have anything else?
Well,
Was there a person or something?
Okay, yeah, so we have
Add it, yeah.
somebody who wants to speak.
Yes.
And we don't have new business here, but I would ask to.
thank you for waiting.
Hello,
hi.
awful conversation. My issue is not as complicated as congestion pricing. My name's Troy Roberts. I am a 60-year resident, 135 Watts Street. It's between Greenwich and Washington Streets in Tribeca. I'm also the vice president of the co-op. I was told I only had 2 minutes to speak tonight, and so I just had to have my other shareholders co-sign.
I think that's more the full board meeting, right?
It's like that, there is no real.
Yeah, but let him finish.
To let him speak.
Yeah, I mean, I would, we're so patient, I would let him take his time.
The shareholders co-signed on this brief statement, and I sent Mr. Romer a written statement from shareholders. The building at 135 Watt Street was constructed in 1896 and is a landmark and on the National Registry. When the City Bike program launched many years ago, 12 docking stations were installed outside the building. Over time, the real estate has grown. It's now 35, blocking access for residents and deliveries, but most concerning, it impedes access for rescue and fire personnel. In 2023, we had great emergencies where responding EMTs, firefighters struggled to get to assist us.
I would have them to.
Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, but who's to say what may happen in the future? We have appealed to the city numerous times over the past year and a half before Mr. Romer's time. I don't know how many times I talked to CD1 for the previous supervisor,
With Lucian, he spoke with Lucian.
District manager.
Lucia. Is that Lucia?
Lucian Reynolds, yeah.
Yes.
That is, the person is a good thing.
I guess we have appealed to CD1 and we're told that there is nothing to be done. And reduce the real estate. That's the way it is, and it could stay there in perpetuity. Complaints are on the record. And should the docking stations impede future emergency efforts that result in harm, I just want people to be mindful that the legal consequences will be great. And as a veteran network news correspondent, I can assure you the negative media coverage will be unpleasant for the city and also for city.
Betty,
We
what,
were asked for alternative locations for the stations. And it's very simple. There is an easy and cost-effective idea. Move them 400 feet away to the block between West and Washington. There are no entrances to the buildings on either side. It's just 400 feet. We make this request, not just because of the eyesore, but because the stations could potentially impede life-saving efforts, not only just for me, but for my fellow residents. I'm 61 years old. I'm the youngest person in this building. And people are in failing health and require at sometimes EMT services. And they are blocked. Firefighters and the EMTs are blocked. It's really difficult to approach the building. And what's frustrating on my end is that this is a simple solution. And you come to CB1 and say, please talk to the DOT. And the DOT says, sorry, live with it. And it's just a simple, easy solution to this. I'm not saying move it miles away, but either reduce the real estate so emergency personnel can get inside the building, or just move it 400 feet. It's very simple and cost effective. I'll even personally help with some bikes.
Or they got cadence at.
Let me clarify a couple of points. First of all, I looked at these on Google Maps and these docks, it has gotten larger, but it's been there for over a decade. So first of all, keep in mind, this is not something that's new.
Not 35.
So I said, it may have gotten bigger, but as far as existing in front of the door frame. Second of all, people are disabled. I don't know how they get up the 2 steps necessarily. I couldn't get into the building in the first place. But second of all, if you go back to 2012, this was all vehicles. So getting between cars isn't a whole lot different than getting between bicycles.
It's easier though, between cars than, you can't walk in between 2 bicycles at the docking stations. It's
See
like
how the handlebars almost touch each other? Right there.
Mr.
I just wanna say that we did bring this
Yeah.
to
Aye.
DOT. We proposed your alternative, proposed locations and,
Yeah.
you're looking into it.
So Zach, if you don't mind, if you could, hi there, Kate Scherer, New York City DOT. If you
I'm
don't,
sorry, your last name?
Scherer.
With the
Um,
DOT.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, Zach, if you could just forward me his note, and I can also take down your contact information, so that we can follow up with you directly. And I can bring to my colleagues the concerns about, the emergency access. I will say, though, we typically would not remove or reduce a city bike dock in order to provide curbside access. It's not an accessibility requirement, but you're raising concerns about emergency vehicle access, so we can bring that to, we can
If
consider
there's
that.
ample space around, like not removing it, but if there's, assuming everything he's saying is accurate, and if there is ample space, 400 feet around the corner, then would it to be a win-win situation?
I'm saying it's something that we can look at.
Okay, I just, because I just remember Jennifer from the DOT, is that, so, are you in Jennifer's position now?
Yes. she's no
Okay,
longer with
and then, okay, and then, because she was very helpful a long time ago, and so I forgot the name of your boss or her boss or what's his name?
Ed Pinkar.
What?
Ed Pinkar.
Yes, okay, so now I know.
Yep.
Who's who.
Pecking order.
Thank you so much.
But yes, but we can exchange contact information.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Do you have a call?
Do I have a card? Mark?
Where you guys decide to put or accept these stations?
So the city bike docks are cited based off of, proximity to bike lanes, pedestrian traffic. And now that the program's been in place for now almost over 10 years, based on usage in the neighborhoods and where we're looking to expand based on usage. But I can get a more detailed breakdown of that. I personally, I don't work in the bike share. Besides these.
So you are aware of the alternatives that were suggested?
Not for this location, I'm not. So I'm asking Zach to provide me. Yes, we can exchange contacts. Yep.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, yeah, then I will just,
Thank
let
you.
Kate follow up on that and we can find out what happened.
Thank you for waiting.
So please, you see Zach on it, so he knows kind of what's going on. Great, thank you.
You have a call, maybe next time,
Now the final comments,
The card, but I will.
our card to somebody's slides.
right then? I'll phone and email.
Yes.
And your name.
Yes.
Jennifer helped with something on my block a long time ago.
The city bike went up today.
I'll tell you after.
Today was a big day for a lot of things.
What happened?
City bikes.
City bike, the fee went up.
Fair, whatever.
After this. After it's used on construction. They put out a sign, arrow facing the wrong way. And she troubleshot right.
It's $10.
That is great.
Took 7 months, but she troubleshot.
Wow.
That was, like, oh my God.
Yeah, sorry.
That's what we thought. we were-
And out of the cards.
Old school.
So yes, the New Jersey saga goes on with their lawsuit.
SCHER?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Next, so you don't think they're alone. The residents from the residents of Battery Park City opened their lawsuit, it's still pending.
Yeah, what is that?
Wait, somebody sued Mariah Carey over congestion pricing? No.
Mariah Carey now.
That's her other theory about. That's his feeling. Okay, but she's in Battery Park City, so she's not New Jersey, but those are the two pending lawsuits that I know. Next. Reason, just so you know, the number of vehicles coming into the city continue to grow as measured on the bridges and tunnels
Gross compared to what year?
What are you gonna do?
every year.
Every year since when?
They didn't say in the article, you have to go through the officer in the article. Anyway, here's something, here's some of the amount. The update shows the bridge and crossings have steadily climbed over the years to the first tolling in 1930.
Of course.
And those who want to know, 19 million cars. That's
Did you need to do a study on that?
Are those individual cars or?
1937 was not the invention of
Mhm.
Not a head car.
I mean, that was also before the TV dinner was invented.
Also, to let people that have the comments about what is the MTA doing to prepare for congestion pricing, thought I'd let you know some of their news alerts. They are enhancing bicycle, pedestrian, and micro mobility access across the network. And they're especially putting in a lot of bike access for subway stations and some of these hubs, so that is being done. If you find a place near you that doesn't have one, let us know and we'll try to get something done. Yeah. Yeah. The DOT installed the bike racks at 34 subway stations entrances. Again, there is more move to get the last mile kind of connections being done. Well, some progress is being made. License plate enforcement. Now we're back to the enforcement, and there have been problems with enforcement, obscured license plates, but this is leading on to actually the next one. Those who are bothered by it, and we have done resolution about this. Councilmember Holden has a new 311 page to report obscured license plates. From what I can tell, looking at it, it's not just obscured, it's also those that are in any way obstructed or missing. Go to the next one.
What do you report about it?
That
You're
exists?
going to see. 311, if you go to it, this is what you pick at the obscured license plate complaint. You go to the next one, get an idea of what they kind of ask you about. And I looked at some of these, and some of them were about missing plates. They were about coverings that didn't allow them to be seen. But there were also some that they were dented or moved. So a lot of the various problems could be reported through the, apparently through the same 311.
Wait. Go back. What does the where and who say? How are we supposed to identify what vehicle if the license plate?
Right, that's what I was asking, yeah.
Usually you can only like one or two numbers that are obscured, like rubbed off, or they have the plate bent, so you can identify some of the plate. If the entire thing, I don't know.
So
So I'm just saying that.
You can take a picture and attach it to that. So yes, if you took a picture of their
Does
registration.
everybody become a detective? I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, but what if, like, part of it was people like have the fake plates or like the paper plates that like are just totally.
Well, then you support those with the location of the vehicle,
Okay.
because they've had some of those towed.
it's fruitless.
But would they,
Does all kinds of things.
would they get to it within the few hours that it would take for
Yeah.
that vehicle?
That's always a big question, what's going on, but it has in some cases.
They'll close it 20 minutes later.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's in 311 and they're
So just put another paper plate over.
This was, as an example, I made a complaint about a ghost car with a fraudulent and expired paper Georgia plate. See how well this worked? Note back from the first precinct, which is why I picked this one, since there are only precincts. Was
Mrs. Kravitz
investigating
would
the
be
service
great.
request. First precinct officers conducted an investigation, removed the vehicle. We thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. So I'm not saying you're gonna 100%, but there are some evidence, and the first precinct was proud enough to put this on footage.
Go first.
Yes, trying to show you that, yes, it can work, and that is not a typical obstructed plate, and so anything you want to report, consider using the 311. You can do. This one was really kind of strange, but since we're also worried about going into congestion pricing and the speed cameras and other things that are out there, dealing with the license plates again, it was kind of interesting, this was actually in a Staten Island newspaper. Coming to our borough and using the devices and fraudulent plates to commit crimes that can go undetected. Here's a lieutenant in the police department. But then he says, law-abiding people who are just using these devices to avoid fatalities or avoid speed cameras, as if that's legal. And obviously,
It's less illegal than also like
no,
killing somebody.
let me go to the next one.
Those are crimes.
And that's exactly what the district attorney says. From car thieves and violent criminals to our neighbors who think they are above the law and obscure their plates and avoid speed cameras and tolls. New York City, Staten Island, and what this says is you will be identified and prosecuted. So, see what goes on Twitter. New York City, the Brooklyn Bridge vendor is on to pass. Go to the next one, because it was effective today. The DOT announced it on Twitter. Today's the first day without vendors allowed on the Brooklyn Bridge, and that's what it looks like.
Still crowded.
Mhm.
Maybe still crowded, but,
And then the plaza across the street is just where they all moved. Literally walked by them tonight.
well, I was gonna say, that's gonna be a whole nother.
Are they
issue.
selling keychains and hats?
Whether, I saw that on the news yesterday. And some of the license vendors were complaining that, we've worked hard for our license. Get the ones that are not licensed, so that reduces the congestion. And, they've been, so I do see that point, I mean, it definitely was overwhelming, but it's not like, it's either all or nothing, it seems, with some of these things, instead of a middle ground.
This is over 700 bridges, and they decided, you know what? They're not meant for people to be selling.
But they're not selling,
It doesn't matter, the mayor and the DOT commissioners made the decision. and
we're,
that's
we're
it.
just opining about different things, Betty.
That's fine.
And if,
I'm just reporting this what happened.
okay, and I think it's hurting some good people that are, licensed vendors. And these vendors are not selling on the Whitestone Bridge, and they're not selling on the Throgs Neck Bridge. They're selling over here because there's people walking over there. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, and this is also, since we're talking about things coming with the new year as well, there can be issuing of $50 tickets to motorists who block bus lanes. So keep in mind, that is something that's a law that's in effect now.
Why not?
Bike lanes, do the bike lanes too.
It is.
Post office that has to drop off mail on Broadway every day.
Yes, and this was, again, the DOT is pushing for a lot more automated in general. And they can do bike lanes, they're working a little bit, I understand, on the technology for that, but nevertheless. The bus cameras are picking up bike lanes as well. And I guess the DOT has some staple cameras as well, if they can use. Police trucks.
It's terrible.
Next. And cyclists, this is another law that has been lagging and people, not enough understanding of it. Cyclists taking the NYPD to court. Remember this, bicycles, unless it's a specific bicycle light, which West Side Highway certainly has on the Greenway. But anyway, otherwise they move with pedestrians to cyclists. And they're still getting ticketed because the police are believing they should be moving with the light to the vehicles, and that's not true.
Wait, I'm sorry, are you saying that cyclists can run the red lights?
Nothing they can run them, I say it's legal for them to move with pedestrians.
Oh, so when the light man picks up, they can go, especially if it's before the, yeah, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a head
They
start.
can get that head start as well. Go-
That has pedestrians in the quote.
They've been getting tickets.
No,
Getting tickets.
I know that
so
I'm
some
being
of our
facetious.
officers
It actually happened to me today.
Educate the police and stop getting us tickets because it is legal.
Right.
So I'm reminding everybody, in case you're looking and saying, I was crossing the street and the cyclist came out of the way and hit me. They have the right to move with pedestrians. That is the law. And that didn't take effect just now, it was a year or two.
But they don't have the right to hit you.
They don't have the right of way over pedestrians. Pedestrians always have the right of way
Yeah,
inside
right.
this.
No, but they can move at the same time.
They can.
I'm looking to,
With the flow.
But they,
the flow.
but they
This
can't
was
be
the flow of
careful to
pedestrians.
hit the pedestrians because the pedestrians.
You just get that head start.
right, pedestrians have to be aware that bicycles are going to be moving at the same time.
I keep flashing.
Okay, smart card program's going to,
Okay.
kind of funny, but.
Okay.
So, next one. Smart card is what we're going to start planning on various ways to utilize the curb space. You want the next one, you have more of a picture of it. This is what's kind of funny. The DOT really, in its tweet about how they're looking at, we have so many uses of the curb space. I mean, there's parking, of course, but there's also the rope and restaurants. There are city bike docks, they're all kinds of things. Now, the next one is a fun one. Somebody looked at it and said, not so fast, NYPD. But if you look at the proposal, it needs some changes. This is often what we see, unfortunately. Somebody else, what's gonna happen too, so don't forget the city vehicles too, not just the NYPD. So that's gonna be the challenge, and I wonder why, if that's why they're going to the Upper West Side first, is to get out of our district. This was kind of interesting, so I thought, this is just infidelity. Did you know in the national highway system, look at how much of our district roads are actually in the net marked in the national highway map.
And this is why, by the way, the federal government had to review
Right.
congestion pricing for so long.
And they looked at this as the blue, which are the interstates, which are 200, that's how they got it going into Canal Street. But in fact, if you go to the next picture, because I had to look at this. I want to know exactly which streets they were, so yes, you can get them and see just how many streets have these layers of involvement of other levels of government. So. Oh, yes, this was 2022, but nevertheless, DOT submitting recommendations about vehicles, when you rate safety ratings on vehicles, they should include the safety to the people outside the vehicle, not just looking at the passengers, which are very important people. Nevertheless, things like the SUVs where now more people are dying because they're being hit in the upper body and the head, where other cars are being hit more at the leg level. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. I got this today too. These are the preliminary reports for the numbers for this year for various fatal, these are fatal injuries for pedestrians. Cyclists are really high this year.
Most cyclists,
And motorcycles are also very high this year.
most of the bicyclists are e-bikers.
It's a lot more e-bikes than.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of it. And keep in mind too, the other motorized has only been in effect the last 3 years. Doesn't come out all stand-up scooters, but I'm not exactly sure what else is included in that.
Isn't it with something, like many times it's the car's fault, and then many times you read this, you know, the cyclist or the motorcycle ran a red light or going the wrong way. It almost seems like it's almost like 50-50 sometimes, you know.
Well, this isn't putting blame on it because look, motorcycle occupants got hit pretty much.
I mean, I think
So-
there's blame all around.
Safe streets are going to be an ongoing issue that's addressed, and these are the numbers, they're pretty unfortunate. Yes, this will just remind people, if you have an opinion about something that wasn't in the resolution on congestion pricing and want to enter as an individual, you can certainly get this information, and you can even go online, you can even go in person in our district and go to one of the meetings yourself. And what's come up from some people who live in the district are interested in the 250th anniversary of America, which is in 2026. And they are really looking to get things in place in time for that, because we're kind of in a construction zone and keep in mind, there will be people, and I expect to hear more noise and thing, that they want done by 2026, so that we look more pristine.
The waterfront.
What are they
completely torn
gonna-
up and
Different-
fenced
How
off.
about peace on earth first?
And this, because this was just freaky, and somebody that I know changed their Facebook page. And I said, where in the world is the Statue of Liberty? And the background doesn't look right. And I found, you know, there is a Statue of Liberty replica that's in Tokyo. Yeah, I didn't know that.
What's the first word, Betty? I can't see the first word.
Odaiba.
And what is it?
It's
Japan.
Yeah,
Location,
it's in Japan.
Oh, it's, okay, yeah.
yeah, that's the location.
That's an Okada?
Odaiba.
Ida.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And this is essentially gonna be going back. This, as you can see at the end, is a meteor shower. It's gonna peak tonight.
It is.
Yeah, it's like between midnight and it's actually the third, fourth. And it's going to be from midnight until about 4 or 5 in the morning.
There's more congestion.
With up to 40 shooting stars
More
an hour.
We might not be able to see it though, because it's supposed to snow.
Tonight?
Like trickling snow.
Tonight? Shooting stars, it's like on the-
It's coming to this building right now.
Those stars will cut right through the clouds.
Well, then Sunday is a whole other thing.
Sunday, Sunday it's 30% chance, which means it's not gonna.
It's like.
The next day, they would get like 7.
Yes.
They said for New York City, it's like 2 inches.
But
Sorry?
I have a question.